The mirrors hold. The journey of the Imperfectly Perfect campaign begins with a searing pain, a pain that tore through me with the devastating loss of a friend to suicide, and one because I could not help but confront the haunting realization, as I mentioned earlier, that my friend's story could have easily been my own. You see, beneath the veneer of my seemingly idyllic life in Australia, filled with sun, ocean, teaching fitness all over Sydney, and the woman of my dreams who went on to become my wife and mother to my firstborn, Lincoln, lay silent struggle, a battle with demons that lurked just beneath the surface. It began, innocuously enough, as a whisper in the recesses of my mind, a whisper that grew louder and more insistent with each passing day as I hit my 30s. It was the insidious voice of body dysmorphia, a relentless obsession with my physical appearance that gnawed at my sense of self-worth and threatened to consume me whole. For me, it manifested in constant checking, obsessing over perceived flaws that only I could see. Picture this. What started as checking my physique for 2 to 3 minutes at a time, something most would not even think of, soon spiraled into my worst moments, spending 2 to 3 hours standing in front of the mirror, dissecting every inch of my body under unforgiving scrutiny. I could wake up ready to take on the day with a plan to hit the gym. Everything would be set, my bag packed, my goals in mind. But then I would pass a mirror, and that insidious little voice would whisper, just check. See if the results you have been chasing are finally there. 2 or 3 hours later, I would still be standing in the same spot, utterly consumed by the flaws I thought I saw. The emotional toll was immense, fluctuating between frustration, self-loathing, and exhaustion from battling a distorted image of myself. The mirror became a tool of torment, turning small moments into hours of self-criticism, leaving me emotionally drained and disconnected from the world around me. Despite outward appearances of confidence and competence while teaching fitness across Sydney, I was ensnared in a web of self-doubt and insecurity. Each glance in the mirror behind closed doors became a moment of torment. Each reflection, a distorted funhouse mirror reflecting my deepest fears. Nobody would have had the slightest idea what I was putting myself through. Teaching fitness, being up on stage, loving everything about what I was doing, yet getting off stage and being alone with my thoughts, it's akin to musicians who, on stage, turn it on, shining under the lights. Yet when the crowd goes home and they're left alone, who do they have? Nobody but their thoughts. The isolation felt deafening. I recall times working out with friends in the gym, constantly telling them that I could not feel the exercises they were giving me, working my chest or my arms. They would insist on loading heavier weights, but something inside me was already breaking. Looking back now, I'm struck by the irony of it all. I had the physique, the so-called washboard abs, and there was nothing inherently wrong with how I looked. But despite all the evidence to the contrary, my mind twisted my perception, dragging me into the dark tunnel of self-doubt and insecurity. The insistent gnawing of check the mirror grew louder with each passing moment, a relentless whisper that echoed through the corridors of my mind. Outwardly, I became skilled at concealing that voice, masking my inner turmoil behind a facade of confidence and bravado. To the boys around me, I projected an image of strength and invulnerability, unwilling to drop the masculine guard and revealing the silent war waging within. I would not bear the thought of admitting to my mates that I was silently battling demons of insecurity. I feared the stigma and judgment that often surrounded discussions of mental health. So I kept my pain hidden, smiling on the outside while unraveling on the inside. Even now, when I look at old photographs, I cannot help but wonder what I was thinking. My physique was everything I had worked for, yet none of it was enough to quiet the obsessive thoughts. The mirror, once a place of fleeting glances, had become my judge, jury, and executioner, pulling me deeper into the abyss of body dysmorphia, all while I kept my struggles hidden from the world. So I kept my struggles hidden, buried beneath layers of denial and false bravado. But even as I laughed and joked with my friends, the weight of my inner turmoil bore down on me like a suffocating blanket. Each glance in the mirror became a battleground, each reflection a reminder of my perceived inadequacies. And yet I soldiered on, determined to maintain the illusion of strength and stoicism. It was not until much later, after the facade had crumbled and the truth had come to light, that I realized the toll my silence had taken on me. The burden of hiding my struggles had only served to deepen my sense of isolation. Several months into the birth of my son Lincoln, with no family in Australia and finding it near impossible to gain full childcare help, my wife and I decided to move to Thailand for a few years to be around family. Yet as excited about the prospect of me, this English guy, moving to another place of paradise, while intended as a fresh start, it was something that only served my inner turmoil. Making a move, I was cut off from familiar surroundings and support systems. I found myself adrift in a sea of uncertainty, grappling with the relentlessness onslaught of negative thoughts and emotions that threatened to overwhelm me at every turn. Every day, and as the months went on, my despair deepened. My voices grew louder, and the weight of that turmoil became increasingly suffocating. I sought solace even more so in the mirror, a cruel reflection of my inner demons. Living in the bustling city of Bangkok only magnified my sense of isolation. The vibrant chaos of the streets below was a stark contrast to the solitude I felt high above. There alone in my thoughts, the world seemed to close in on me. The constant hum of the city could not drown out the definite noise in my mind, the relentless barrage of self-criticism, doubt, and negativity. There were moments when I would stand on the balcony, gazing out over the sprawling skyline, wishing for the storm inside me to calm. Now, I want to be clear, I never contemplated taking my own life. But in those darkest hours, I began to understand how a person could be driven to make irreversible decisions. It was a terrifying realization how thin the line is between simply wanting the pain to end and stepping over the edge into something you can never take back. I teetered on that line, walking a tightrope between longing for an escape from the torment and clinging to the faint flicker of hope within me. As my mental state deteriorated, so did my ability to connect with the world around me. I became more isolated, retreating into my own mind. Any excuse to step away became a lifeline for my obsession. Even when we were out as a family enjoying what should have been precious moments together, I would make excuses to rush and find a bathroom where the mirror awaited. I would rip off my shirt and stand there under the harsh lights, tearing myself apart piece by piece, fixating on every imagined flaw. Even in my professional life as a business and sales manager at a health and wellbeing facility, the obsession followed me. There were countless times when instead of focusing on my work, I would disappear, jumping on the BTS train, traveling several stops home just to check myself out in the mirror, convinced something had changed in the short time since I last looked. I did not let anyone in. My wife had no idea of the extent of my torment at that time. There was a moment when I even asked her to take photos of me in a home gym. Pictures that, when I look at them now, show how incredible my physique really was. I posted them on social media, presenting an image of confidence of a man thriving in Thailand, living his best life and in the best shape of his life. But behind that post, behind that carefully curated facade, was a man crumbling. The very same day I uploaded those photos, I found myself back in the mirror, silently pulling myself apart once again. What looked like the pinnacle of physical health on the outside was in truth a house of cards, ready to collapse under the weight of my self-loathing. I was trapped in a cycle that felt inescapable, caught between the image I wanted the world to see and the reality I could not escape. As I sit here penning these words, my mind drifts back to those moments and a tear silently rolls down my cheek. It's a tear for the time I missed, time I will never get back, being fully present with my wife, embracing the beauty of those fleeting moments. Instead, I was consumed by a battle within, a war no one else could see. The love I should have given to myself, to the person I was, and what I brought into this world was lost beneath the weight of my own self-doubt and torment. I cannot fully describe the depth of pain that I carried inside. It was not just an ache, it was a hollowness that gnawed at me every day. Even now, as I write this, some of those memories come flooding back, and I shed another tear, not just for the time that slipped away, but for the version of myself who became so lost, lost in a prison of his own making, where nothing was ever good enough, and the person I was meant to be faded further into shadows. I cry for that guy who could not see his worth, who spent countless nights staring into a mirror, tearing himself apart, while the world outside moved on without him. I cry because now I understand how much he missed. The moments of love he could have given, not just to those around him, but to himself. It is a sorrow that still lingers, a reminder of the precious time I wasted fighting a battle I never needed to face alone. People often say that light shines through the cracks of darkness. For me, that light was my wife. She became my beacon when I thought I was hiding everything so well, but she started noticing my behavior. She saw what I could not admit to myself. One man's mission to redefine imperfection, guys. Now you know some of my journey and how deep and how dark it went, and why I give a damn about making a difference in every single person's life that comes across my global efforts to change the narrative around mental health, one story at a time.